welcome to the T-Fix podcast. I'm Leona Liu, and I'm joined by my co-host, Geoff Norman. Geoff is Skyping in from Portland, Oregon. Geoff, how are you?
I am excellent. How are you?
I'm doing well. How was your Memorial Day weekend?
I spent most of it working. There was a party that was here at the place. Every time I came home, my roommates were throwing an all 3-day rager, which was great. But our idea of a rager at our age is just junk food and watch the kids and make sure that they don't stab themselves with something. And that was it.
That sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah. And the last day was spent with my brother and my sister-in-law and watching them try to keep their child from stabbing herself with something or running into a fire pit. And other than that, it was fairly pleasant.
That's good.
We don't need to talk about the work part.
Fair enough.
How was yours?
It was good. I had a friend visit for the weekend, so we just checked out a couple of restaurants and went to the beach, and it was 90 here, so that was wonderful. And I did not have AC, so that was great.
I saw that you guys were playing a game called Sushi Go.
Sushi Go, yes. That was the first time I ever played. That was the first time. It was so fun.
Yes, it is, and it makes you very hungry after playing it.
Yes, except that they're adorable, so they're like little sushi people.
I would destroy adorable sushi. Absolutely just maim it with my mouth.
Their cute faces have... So, Geoff, you and I actually met on Instagram.
Yes, you commented on a couple of my things. I guess I commented on a couple of your things. Then you commented on my blog, which nobody does except my mom and people that already know that my blog exists. And we found that we had mutual affection for Chinese and Taiwanese teas, as well as a few blend outfits.
Yeah. And I think we actually started commenting quite a bit after a B. Fuller post.
Yes.
Because you were saying that you actually also had the tubes of tea.
Yeah, I have 2 tubes of tea. I don't know where one is or what that blend was, but the other was their Clockwork Orange blend, which is kind of like an Earl Grey on citric acid.
Wow.
It's so good. It's wonderful. I handed it off to a friend of mine who has a deeper, abiding lust for Earl Grey, even more than I do, which is really hard to believe.
So I noticed before when you sent a picture of you getting ready for the show, are you wearing your koala t-shirt right now?
No, I sleep in that shirt. I'm currently wearing the Keep Calm and Gaiwan on shirt.
Oh, nice. Because reasons.
Because reasons. Do I need to explain myself to you?
You do not need to explain that. So I guess we can talk about how we got into tea. So would you like to kind of give a little intro into how you got into tea?
Sure, and I'll try to keep it appropriate.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I got into tea around 2004, right after college.
Okay.
And around that age, around that time, I had just turned 28.
Uh-huh.
And in true bro fashion, I was interested in finding ways to make myself more of a man, including looking up supplements, going to GNC and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that this is the polite version of the story, most of the supplements that they had for men had green tea as an ingredient. And I figured, why do I want to pay a $30 surcharge for a pill when I can just drink the stuff for like pennies a bag?
Right.
And so from there, I was getting tea bags of Moroccan mint or whatever else, or stuff with ginseng in them, stuff with ginkgo in them, and they all tasted awful.
Oh, really? Well, I guess ginkgo has an acquired taste.
Oh, it tastes like tree bark and the hindquarters of a gazelle.
Wow.
But eventually I moved on to, thanks to other friends, moved on to loose leaf tea, taking particular affection for white teas.
Okay.
Yin Jins from Hunan Province, Yunnan Province, Fujian Province. And then it just snowballed from there. I didn't start writing about tea until 2007 when I posted a couple of blogs on ye old MySpace. And
MySpace. Oh my gosh.
Back in the day when glitter text ruled the font verse. But I wrote one on rolling my eyes at Wu Yi diet teas at the time. And I also wrote one about my supplemental journey into getting into tea in the first place. And that one kind of went mini viral. And
oh, really?
Yes, in the romance section.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then in 2008, I was working at an art gallery, and I was perusing different tea sites between clientele coming in, and I saw a review site called Tea Views that basically sent you tea, and then you would review it, and that just seemed like a dream for somebody that was broke.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, and that pretty much ballooned my palate within just a few months. And I stayed on that for a while until 2011 when I started my blog, which is Steep Stories.
That's great. So was the review, was there a criteria for what type of reviews you had to write to like receive this free tea? Or was it just write any type of review?
You could, when auditioning, air quotes, you had to submit an example of how you would write about it. And the first one I ever wrote about was the Lavender Dream from Tivana, and it was it was god awful. It was just absolutely awful. It tasted like soap. Couldn't even taste the white tea. And I then proceeded to I just turned that in, saw what would happen. The guy liked what I did, and from there they basically sent about 10 or 15 teas, and I had to get some done within a certain amount of time, and then more would be sent, because a lot of vendors were sending out, at least at the time, sending out some of the products that they wanted to be featured to certain review sites. At the time, there were several review sites around. There aren't as many around now, since there are so many tea bloggers that fit that criteria. So these aggregate sites don't as much exist, although Tea Views is still around. But
are you still on Tea Views?
No, my profile is, but I haven't done any reviews since like 2013.
Oh wow, okay, so for a while then.
Yeah, a long while, but that got me started with the tea community on Twitter, on Steepsters, communicating with other people, and then eventually started my own blog, and then that escalated to semi-professionalism.
Yeah,
and yeah,
that's awesome.
That's the short version.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. So, so Lavender Dreams. So one of my first jobs when I was in college was actually working at Tivana, and you and I had spoken about this. About what are you drinking, by the way?
I'll get to that, but you continue with your story.
So I was selling Lavender Dreams and several other fruity and flowery blends of tea.
Yeah.
And to be honest, some of them had dried fruit in them, and I would sneak like dried pieces of fruit while I was eating. I'm like, this does not need to be in this tea. I'm just going to eat it. I'll help the customers out and take some of this out. It was just sugar. It was like a candied fruit in the tea. So for me, in terms of how I got started drinking tea, I've kind of been drinking tea my whole life. But it was always a very passive event. It was, you go out to a restaurant, and you're drinking tea. It's not a we're going to sit down and then we're actually going to focus, we're not going to focus on tea. It was mainly the meal, and it was a complement to the meal. And then a few years ago, I want to say 5 years ago maybe, my mom and I took a trip to Chengdu in Sichuan province. And there is actually, there's a place called Kwanzai Alley. And it's these old historic streets, and it just had this beautiful tea culture. It was lined with tea houses. And I think that's when I really fell in love with drinking tea. It was all of the earth tones and all the aesthetics and the flavors and textures associated with tea just really drew me in. And it was just so, it's very calming. So it was really appealing. And then I worked at Tivana for a while, actually. I worked there for maybe, yes, I know. I worked there for maybe, I want to say less than 9 months. It was a little conflict of,
Yeah, I interviewed with them once, and that lasted 9 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
So what happened?
Oh, the moment one of the gals that was interviewing used the line, "We're not exactly used car salesmen, but we walk the fine line."
Yes.
Yeah, and from there I was just like, how best can I sabotage this interview without being inappropriate?
So did you proceed to do that then?
Yes, they were kind of asking, so how would you upsell a customer? And I was just like, well, I don't really like talking to people.
That's great.
What do you know about pottery or teaware? Absolutely nothing. I use mugs.
The interview quickly shifted, and they had no idea what was going on.
Now, in Sichuan province, when you were going all to these different tea houses, were you running into Sichuan hei cha, or were you running into Sichuan green tea for the most part?
So when I first went on that trip, I really didn't know much about tea. So I just went with, my mom had a friend who was there, and she said, oh, there's these very historical streets, and there's a lot of tea houses and really great restaurants. They all have the old architecture, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So at that time, I just kind of followed them and walked the streets. And I remember it was raining one day. So I think it was raining on the day we were walking down the street. And there was this tea house where you walk in, and it's kind of like an open courtyard. So the middle there's this shallow pond, and then the roof is open in the middle, and all of the seating wraps around that pond, which is covered. And so my mom and I sat there and got some tea, and it was raining that day, so rain was pouring into the building, into the little pond.
Whoa.
And yeah, it was really cool. So you're sitting next to like the rain, but you're covered, but you're kind of inside, but you're outside at the same time. And it was just so nice and calming. But in terms of tea, I really didn't get into tea until I had returned from that trip. And I haven't gone back since.
Oh, back to China, or you haven't gone back to bad tea?
I have not gone back to the Kwanzai Alley in Chengdu, but I if I could take a trip to China, I would want to go there again. It's so beautiful. So in terms of the tea I drank there, I can't say that I knew exactly what I was drinking when I was there.
But you were saying something about a lot of earth tones and such. So you must have had a hei cha while you were there.
Probably. A lot. What I mean by earth tones is a lot of the tea shops, or the tea houses, how they're decorated. They have like all these shelves, and they're all filled with like clay teapots, and it was just so beautiful. Just the entire aesthetic kind of drew me in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. I thought you were like tasting clay notes on something.
I was not yet. Not in that trip. I was not tasting.
Good. Yeah, I've had a few Sichuan hei chas that give off that note.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah, I have a couple fermented like that 20-year-old pour.
Yeah.
I've had my friends try it and they're like, oh, okay. Well, this tastes earthy.
This tastes like earth and nothing else.
Yes, I'm like, because it is. It's been fermenting for 20 years.
Is that what you're drinking right now? Or?
So right now I'm actually drinking a tea. It's a 3-year pour from the Menghai Tea Factory.
I know Menghai.
Yeah, in Xizhuangbanna. And there, I actually found this tea on Yunnan Sourcing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's this, let me see if I can grab it. It's this mini cake. So I have a full tin of it.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I have a full tin of it, and it's these little guys.
Yeah, it's the 100G Bing Cha cake tea deals.
Yep.
Show or shoe? I mean, raw or cooked?
It's cooked.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I have this whole tin is, we just, my mom and I both really enjoy this tea. It's a tea that you can enjoy and you don't have to feel guilty about drinking it.
Right.
So, and I kind of have been drinking it for a while. I don't know if you can see it here.
Yep, that looks like a cooked puer cake.
Yep. So I've had this for a while, and I have a few other cakes I need to get through. But this is usually what I make in my yixing. Mm-hmm. Just because I don't want to, because I have a whole tin of it and I don't want to keep switching the type of teas. And I don't have the luxury of being close to a tea. You know, I don't know anyone I don't live in China, but everyone who makes yixing there, they have like a farmer that they know. And then they have the entire season of tea in these huge clay pots, and they just drink them for, every year they just keep drinking the same. So I don't have that luxury. So I'm like, well, I have a lot of this tea, so I'll just use one tea and make it fairly consistent.
I don't have that luxury either. I know one guy that has clay jar upon clay jar of puer, but he's also a vendor, so it's understandable that he has that in the first place.
Right.
Whereas my puer collection is in a box.
Mine is also...
Go on.
No, I said mine is also in a box.
Yeah, it's like, is yours wet stored or dry stored? Do you use a humidor? I don't know.
It's in a room. It's indoors. It's indoors.
It's indoors. I think it's temperature controlled, and there's very little light. Or did I need light? I don't remember. Don't ask me.
Well, so I only recently got an air conditioner in my apartment. Mm-hmm. Only recently, as in this morning. And
okay.
Yeah. And
that's very recent.
Yeah. Fairly recent. And so sometimes I worry, is it too humid in my apartment, and is it going to, ruin the tea? Because, the moisture is going to get in. I mean, this tea is in a tin, but the other ones are just, like you said, they're just in a box, in a open box. And then some of them are in a cupboard, but I mean, that doesn't do anything.
You can temperature control it by basically I hear that you can wrap it and then file it away somewhere just so that it's getting some room to breathe, but not taking in all that moisture. Okay. Because I've heard actually good and bad things depending on the subject who's reporting upon their aging techniques. I'm not an expert at aging. I know people who are. Mm-hmm. But in some cases, some of the people don't know how to adjust the humidity in those converted old fridges that they may use for humidors. And sometimes mold will grow on the cakes that they're using. So no. I'm not exactly sure what the ideal technique is, but it's usually a temperature controlled room or sarcophagus.
A sarcophagus? A tea sarcophagus.
A tea sarcophagus. Basically, the best way to age is dry stored, which means very little humidity, and in a temperature controlled environment. And it works best if you happen to be in a region that is not humidity prone, which where you are, you're already kind of effed because.
Thanks, Geoff.
Well, so am I. I mean, I'm in the Pacific Northwest. It's nothing but wet.
That's true. Your winters are just rain.
Winters are just rain, except for the fair bout of 1-inch snowstorm that we all panic over. But
how do we drive in this?
How do we drive in this? I don't understand what's going on. What is this white stuff?
Everything shuts down.
Everything shuts down, just like it did when we got even less than that. Yeah, because we don't have the infrastructure for it. But that has nothing to do with tea. Yeah. Anyway, I am drinking something a little bit on the opposite end. I'm drinking one of my favorite teas of all time, which is a red oolong.
Okay.
Red oolong. Let me see if I can show a picture of these beautiful necktie rolled leaves. I'm going to get these out and display it like it's a buxom lass. Yeah. I totally know what I'm doing.
That usually means you have no idea what you're doing.
Hey. Aren't those lovely? What it is red oolong is, one of the key steps for oolong is to partially oxidize or mid-oxidize or mostly oxidize. Mm-hmm. In other words, kind of dead or mostly dead. And in
That's
the case
what I'm drinking. All dead.
Actually, in the case of fermented teas, I think that would be zombified, but I don't know.
Fair.
But red oolongs are mostly oxidized before they go to the kill green and the bruising. Or does the bruising take place? The bruising takes place before, then they oxidize the leaves to about 70 to 90%. Okay. And then after that, then they start doing the walk fire to actually kill the green. Mm-hmm. Basically keep the chlorophyll and oxidase chemical meet cute from happening. But by then, it's already mostly a black tea anyway, so it has all the woody and malty notes of a black tea, but a lot of the floral and butter and sweet characteristics of an oolong. Best of both worlds. It's like the day walker of teas.
That's nice. Where did you find this online, or was this through like a sample?
I originally got it as a sample from a friend who owns a company called Norbu Tea, based in Texas. Okay. And he direct sources from this indigenous tribe in Taiwan on Mount Ali Shan. Okay. And they produce white teas, oolongs, an oolong-ish white tea. They even do a hei cha of sorts, but necktied like an oolong. And they've been doing this red oolong for quite a long time, and he's been my source. The company's called Norbu Tea, and he's been my source on Taiwanese red oolong for quite some time, and it's one of my favorites.
Nice.
I could drink this like a fish. This or first flush and second flush Darjeelings, they're gone in weeks.
So you just continuously order from. So it's Norbu Tea.
Norbu Tea.
Nice.
Yeah, another good source of one. There's actually another one that is in close second from a company called Hot Vala based in Vietnam, and they do a red oolong from Taiwanese cultivars as well.
Okay.
Yeah. But,
that sounds... Yeah, you had sent a picture of it, and it was beautiful.
It's a lovely, lovely tea, and it tastes just as lovely as it looks. Like if ruby had a taste, the color ruby had a taste, that would be it.
Oh, that's nice. Mm-hmm. Plus, you had a nice camera, so that helped too.
That helped too.
That helped sell it.
I can almost taste the filters.
Oh, it was so pretty. Just the colors and everything. Mm-hmm. So, how long have you been drinking this tea for?
I'd say, gosh, that's a good question. I would say since like 2014.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
It stuck with you for a while.
It has stuck with me. It's not my like absolute favorite tea of all time, but it's up there. It's like it's like the silver medal of all of them. But like if I was on a desert island, fueled on nothing but tea, that would be the tea of choice that I would have because I could drink it at all times of day and feel great. It was like, wow, I'm going to die soon, but I'm too zen to care.
I got my red oolong.
I got my red oolong. No ship's going to rescue me, but that's just fine.
And you have a Wilson with you, right?
A what?
You have a Wilson with you, right, on this island?
A Wilson? Do I have a Wilson? Oh, that would have to be a guy. It would have to be a Guy Wan. You gotta have something to brew the damn thing in.
That would be really cute, actually. It has a little hat, right?
Oh, that would be great. A Guy Wan that has basically like two eyes on it, and the lid to the lidded cup portion would just look like a top hat.
Yes, that would be great.
That would be bad. That would be. Someone get on that.
Yeah, someone make that, please, and link us.
No joke. Yes. So, puer, is that pretty much your wheelhouse these days?
It is these days. So when I first got into tea, I drank a lot of oolong, and it's a lot of. So, my mom actually goes to China. I go to China about once a year just to visit my relatives, but my mom would go there and she has a lot of friends who are very into tea and they're like, oh, this tea is from this region. I'm just going to give you like bags of it. Here you go. And then she'll split it with me. So I just drink a little bit of this oolong, a little bit of that oolong. So I did that a lot. I would say probably, oh gosh. I don't want to think how long ago this was.
That's
6
the
years?
oolong police, by the way.
It is the oolong police. I think this was probably over 6 years ago. So I was drinking oolong a lot, and I would actually pack like a little this exact vessel. So I would pack it with oolong, and then I would brew it, and then I just let it steep for less than a minute. So when I was taking a lot of tests or when I was studying, I would make that, and so I found that to be very effective in terms of the caffeine.
In terms of the caffeine,
delivery. Yeah.
The funny thing is, I do that now because by midday I need some kind of a kick, and it's usually like a strip style oolong. Lately, it's been Wu Yi. I noticed that when you choose an oolong, you usually go the Wu Yi route. Your Instagram is pretty much photos of vacations that you've been taking or Wu Yi oolong.
Yeah, I have so many. And they're just a couple sample, those little vacuum sealed packs. Yeah. So it's maybe 4 or 5 of each different brand. So I just try them all. So I was drinking that for a while, and then I really started getting into the Japanese greens.
Really? That is a weird trajectory.
I know. It was very weird. So I would... I was really into Japanese greens for a while, and then that stopped. Probably a year. I probably had a year where I was drinking a lot of Japanese greens, and I would make it fairly similar, where I would have a lot, just make a very concentrated amount and do it kind of like a shot almost. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
So
that's almost ideal because it's like umami punch.
Yeah. And so I really like that, and I drink that a lot in the mornings. I found it was very bright, and it was just a nice bright punch in the morning.
Yeah.
And sometimes on Sunday mornings, I do that now. I'll just brew a little gyokuro and just do it real quick. And then I'm like, all right, now I need something a little more earthy. But it is a weird transition. I think, so from oolong to gyokuro and now puer. And puer is pretty, so a lot of times when I make it, if I don't drink it for very long, I kind of leave it in my teacup, and I'll actually put it in the fridge.
If it's a good cooked puer, that actually might work really well. Because cooked puer, everybody says that one of the ideal ways to do puer is to gong fu it, and it's like, no, because you're not actually getting all the flavor. And I heard from another friend that one of the most ideal ways to do it is to do it grandpa style, where you pretty much just take a chunk of it, put it in a mug, and then pour over hot water, and then wait 10 minutes.
Yep. Actually, my uncle, who is this semi-tea snob, not semi, I guess you either are or you aren't, but but that's what he does. He takes his 20-year-old puer, he'll just put it in a container or his like a to-go, like a to-go mug, and he'll just brew it all day. He just keeps pouring water over it, and he's like, yeah, this little piece, I just drink it all day, and that's all he drinks is like his 20-year-old puer. Like, that's nice.
A friend of mine recommended. I do that with an old sheng that I had that he handed my way. He basically said just take like only about 3 or 4 grams worth, and then brew it for like 20 minutes.
Oh, and okay.
It was perfect. It was just perfect.
That sounds really nice. So I usually like to, so right now I'm making the puer, or I'm brewing it anyway. So I actually have half of it still like steeping. And so I like to let it get very concentrated, I guess you could say.
Yep.
It just has a really nice flavor. In the beginning, I just keep washing it until or rinsing it until the flavor start coming out. So
yep, because if it's a good cooked puer, it'll at least, even after like brewing it at concentrate or Russian Zavarka levels, it should still have. It should still have like velveteen tar notes that are just lovely.
Yeah.
Almost like jujube molasses.
Ooh, that's a nice descriptor right there.
Yeah, I run into that a lot with cooked puers that I've received from Nanwu, one of the famous mountains, I think. It's my favorite puer mountain. I am just snobby enough with puer to say that I have a favorite mountain, because I have
That's pretty snobby, Geoff.
I'm sorry, what?
That's pretty snobby.
It is pretty snobby.
The other mountains won't do. Only this mountain.
Only this mountain. Oh, get that ai lao away from me. What's funny is I've run into other puer snobs, people that whose opinions I respect, that basically go, yeah, Nanwo's okay. And I'm like, okay? What do you mean just okay?
They're on a different level, Geoff.
Oh, totally different level. I'm intermediate at best. No, not even that, man. I'm full on noob. I mean, my puer is stored in a box.
Is that how you would categorize your puer level? Like how you store your puer is indicative of your seriousness about it? Because I need to reconsider my storage.
I don't know, and frankly, if you're to ask most people, they would say it really doesn't matter as long as it's what you enjoy. There's been thankfully in many fronts of the tea community, there have been backlashes against snobbery, particularly with regards to puerhs as well. I mean, because if you notice some of the major vendors, they've been mostly concentrating on creating blends, even from blends from different mountains that taste good, and then giving it like a really clever label.
Right.
And that experience, the fun of it has been taking center stage as opposed to whether or not it's a green or a yellow mark. I mean, that appreciation is still there, but there seems to be a 180, a vergence in the force, if you will, causing people to think maybe we should go back to having fun with the beverage in question.
Right, just enjoying it.
Yes, enjoying it, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something I would have to research further, but that's just what I've been observing on a cursory level, because I try to just hover slightly out of the radar of the poor community, since I know enough to know what I'm talking about in general, but not in specific, because I do not know the invoices, I do not know the years, I do not know many of the factories. I'm mostly focused on regional terroir, and I think that's about it. Actually, I could tell you that I like Yiwu puerhs. I could tell you that I like puerhs from the Mengku region. I could tell you that I love everything that comes out of Nanwo, particularly any of the stuff that's made by the Bada people. But ask me about invoices, lots, and so on, and my eyes glaze over.
Yeah, that's pretty specific.
It is, and and more power to them if that's what they get their jollies on. But I mean, ask me about Darjeeling gardens or Nepalese gardens or Assam factories. I could tell you that all day, but I have not reached that level with regards to Yunnan teas.
Huh. Okay. And that's actually pretty interesting about what you do know about Darjeeling and whatnot. So where about? Why don't we take a break right now and we can talk about kind of where we enjoy our teas when we come back?
Okay.
Okay.
Hi there, I'm David.
And I'm Kate.
And we're the hosts of another Zelda podcast.
There are so many good podcasts out there, and some of them in particular concern the Legend of Zelda.
That's right, Kate, and we are another one of them. That is actually the name of our show, Another Zelda Podcast.
And in our show in particular, we talk about some of our favorite dungeons, characters, boss battles. We have top 10 lists.
Yeah, we do deep dives on game design and production aspects of the different Zelda games.
And we talk about our own experiences. We do some review episodes, talk about our challenges, our struggles, and our victories.
That's right. Really just almost anything that has to do with Zelda, we like to talk about it. A new episode comes out every other Friday, and you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and YouTube.
And you can also check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
That's right. All right, we will see you there.
Okay, bye.
So you were talking about Darjeelings as being one of your favorites in addition to the red oolongs.
Yeah, so, quite a disparity there, I know.
Well, I drink your Koro after my oolong phase, so
yeah.
No judgment from Chicago.
No, actually Darjeelings were pretty much the first types of teas that I glommed onto as being a favorite. I had one guy when I was doing my tea review phase before the blog.
Okay.
There was a guy with a company called Thunderbolt Tea. They're run by a guy named Benoit Tapa. And he sent me some samples just direct instead of directly through the review site and said, "Here, have at it. Have fun. Happy sipping." And one of them was from a garden called Castleton, and it was a second flush Darjeeling, which means it was picked between May and June. And it was their signature tea that they come out with. I don't remember which invoice it was because they do several invoices throughout the flush.
Okay.
But Castleton Moonlight second flush, and I think it was back in 2014 2011, maybe 2012. No, it was 2011. It was when I first started my individual blog,
Okay.
and I tried a few Darjeelings that I liked and thought they were perfect examples of what I would look for in a black tea.
Yeah.
But I had not had one that made my eyes turn into my soul and cause my toes to curl. And
Wow.
I was on a beach trip with my cousin.
Uh-huh.
And we stopped off at a Starbucks, and I was basically grandpa styling, and I put some leaves in the bottom of a cup and asked if I could mooch water. Yeah, I was that guy.
I have been that person. I have also been that person at a Starbucks.
and they did it, and it had been steeping for a while, and it's been steeping for like 5 or 10 minutes or something like that, and I didn't know what I was going to taste, and I took a sip while I was in the passenger seat, and then I was just like, oh my God. and then my cousin looked over, did you just orgasm? And I was like, no, this is just so good. Okay, maybe it's the same thing.
Wow.
And every year that I've had the Castleton Moonlight Second Flush, it has had or garnered a similar reaction from me.
Wow. I have to try. Where do you order that from?
Usually my go-tos for Darjeeling are the aforementioned Thunderbolt tea or Lochan tea, run by the Lochan family.
Okay.
I'm really personal with them. They even own their own garden in Bihar, India, which has my favorite Indian black tea of all time.
Wow. Have you ever visited?
No, and I'm a little scared of going to India. I'm a little scared of traveling in general. But I know that if I go there, I would have people that would be able to help me out and guide me around and keep me from getting into major trouble.
And keep you tea drunk the entire time.
And keep me tea drunk the entire time, because I know I would probably be that guy that's caught running naked through the Gadapahar garden, complaining about the mist is in the tea. And I know, and knowing Vivek Lilchen, the guy that runs their wholesale lobby, would probably either film it or stop me. I can't decide which. I think you need to
go to India. I think this is the conclusion we're coming to.
This is happening. It's for the show.
It's for the show. We need to send Geoff to India.
Yeah, I think it.
Go ahead.
I think it'll happen at some point, but I don't see it happening in the foreseeable future. But it's a goal.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, you just recently got back from France. Did you see anything tea culture related other than your pastry hunt?
So I went there with my mom, and we didn't stop for tea, really. We just kind of drove around to see a lot of castles, and it was mainly a sightseeing tour. And we spent the last part of our trip kind of by the coast, and it was a lot of seafood. There wasn't a lot of tea. It's a lot of coffee. It's like it's all espressos. So I usually just ordered when in Rome.
I can understand that. I like espresso, but it's not my go-to.
Right. It's a sharp drop from espresso too. For me anyways. So either you accept that that's going to happen, or you continue drinking espressos.
I'm surprised you didn't run into any of the perfumey blends that come out of France.
I am not into. I know you just wrote a blog about this too.
No. Believe me, we're kind of on the same page with that. I mean, even though I will welcome blends, the really, really heavily flavored things, I tend to shy away from as well.
Right.
So, I will not be the guy that goes for the cheesecake flavored rose hit.
Oh, you don't like the cheesecake flavored tea? Because I was gonna say I actually really enjoy the tiramisu cheesecake flavored tea.
Are you serious?
No, I'm not serious.
I was gonna
No
say,
one should be serious about that.
Show's over!
This is done. We're not talking about this anymore.
I've run into a few cheesecake flavored blends, and I actually know a blender that does that kind of thing, and she does a pretty good job with that. It's not my go-to or anything like that. That said, there is this one blend from a friend of mine that runs an outfit called Joy's Teaspoon, and the blend is called Lemon Zest, and it is completely the exact opposite of what I usually go for. And every time it's mentioned, I am compelled, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, to write in all caps with multiple exclamation points, Lemon Zest! Because it is the most glorious combination of flavors.
So it's lemon. So it's lemon and green tea then.
I think I don't remember what the blend has. No, it is. It doesn't have any actual tea in it. It's honeybush, rooibos. I think is in there as well. I believe. I knew by heart what was in this blend, and I can't remember because it's been a while. But it had a bunch of different things in it on top of some kind of natural flavor agent that tasted like custard.
Oh,
and
wow.
And it made the most beautiful base for a desserty latte. I mean,
that sounds nice.
Yeah, on the one hand, I'll be like, yes, I like my Wui oolong specifically from Zhejiang province, and then the other land,
It's like that guilty pleasure song that most people don't. Well, I guess you're advertising. That's cool. I was gonna say that most people usually keep in their, and their like private playlist of like that song that they just jam out to.
Why is Taylor Swift Shake It Off in there right after your dashboard confessional?
So weird. I don't know who put that in there.
I don't know. I think it was my sister's fault. I didn't do it.
So how did you mix the lemon zest? Because you
I would brew it at double strength with half the water.
Yeah.
And then I didn't have a milk steamer, so I had to nuke the milk for about a minute and a half. And then, I mean, even though you're supposed to put in milk first, at the time I did the milk after. I basically did the concentrate first, the milk after. Mm-hmm. Or I would froth that mixture together and with a milk frother, usually from IKEA. And
ooh,
then,
I need to pick up one of those.
And then dollop that with cinnamon.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah, it was a glorious latte.
Did you add sweetener to it?
Did I add sweetener? You really didn't need to with that blend. I mean...
So I just want to say that every time you think you should be holding a teacup here, and then look in the opposite corner. That was a good look. When you were thinking.
I'm detecting notes of marmalade, camphor. And it has this mentholic thing on the end.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So you're in Portland right now. Are there a lot of good spots to like enjoy tea outside of your
outside of the comfort of my hermetic room? Yes.
Outside of your house? Yes.
Yes, there are. I regularly frequent a blending outfit called the Jasmine Pearl. They also have a good collection of oolongs and some other single origin things that I like. They deal with a Japanese farmer that is a pretty good acquaintance of mine. Mm-hmm. And I could also be found occasionally at Smith Tea Maker, which is based in Southeast Portland and also near downtown.
Okay.
Their main hub looks like a distillery, and it kind of is. And they do some really cool things, like a masala chai on nitro.
Really?
Yes, and it's really good. I wouldn't recommend having more than one. You will walk through walls if you have more than one of those.
You will crash through walls.
Crash through walls.
You will be crashing through walls.
Crashing through walls. And there are plenty of other outfits, but those are the two that I find myself gravitating towards, and especially since I live nearer to them now.
That's awesome. That's really nice. So in Chicago, I usually just have it at home. There's a couple of tea shops. I was really spoiled by that Chengdu experience. So now when I walk into a tea shop, I'm like, well, there's no rain coming through the roof, so this won't do. The aesthetic is off.
You don't have like a Chinese garden that's designed to look like a scholar's abode where you are?
I do not.
Oh,
unfortunately.
Because we have one of those.
You do?
Yes, there is a Chinese garden in downtown Portland in
gosh.
Chinatown, and they basically walled it off so you don't see any of the other buildings, and it's designed to look like a scholar's residence. And there's this 2-story traditional tea house, which they call the Tower of Cosmic Reflection.
Wow.
And that was the first place that I actually developed a palate and appreciation for aged shangpuer.
Wow, that sounds beautiful.
Yeah, the company that does all of the teas for that place is called Tao of Tea, and they were pretty much instrumental in helping with my palate schooling in loose leaf teas.
Oh, wow. I'm really jealous that you have that.
Yeah, and the disadvantages is that it costs money to get in, and then you have to, and then you're buying tea after that. But it's a great date spot. Not that I'd know.
In my mind, it seems that it would be a great date
In
spot.
my mind, I'm picturing that it would be. On paper, it seems like a good idea.
So there's like an entrance fee.
Yes, but I think it's up to $7 because you're going around the whole garden, not just the tea house itself in the back. So there's guided tours, there's other things, wow. And yeah, it's really interesting. But if you're just going for tea, I mean, you might as well just get a membership at that point.
Right. And there are memberships there.
There are, and the garden itself is called the Lansu Chinese Garden, and a bunch of people pretty much are in charge of the upkeep, and Tao of Tea is part of that. They're pretty much in charge of keeping the tea room looking all spiffy and stuff.
That sounds so nice.
And there's a lovely koi pond that's in the middle of the whole thing.
This place sounds huge.
It takes up a city block.
Wow. And it's is it in downtown Portland?
It's in northwest Portland, which is basically attached to downtown, but it's on the other side of the bad road.
The bad road. The road that has no name but is bad.
The road that has no name. Actually, the road is Burnside.
Is that the name?
Burnside.
It's called Burnside?
It's called Burnside.
The bad road is called Burnside. Wow. That's very fitting.
Yeah, that's like the wrong side of the tracks road.
They knew what they were doing when they were naming that road.
Yes, they did.
That's really nice. Yeah. In Chicago, I don't believe we have anything even close to that. I wonder if it's because of the winters here. Because that place could probably it probably stays open all year.
No, they close it down in the winters as one would expect, because the weather is crap and most of it is outdoor.
Oh. Yeah, I don't think there's anything in Chicago. But so after visiting that tea house in Chengdu, I was thinking for a while, it's like, one day I will build one in Chicago. Like a madman.
And if you had enough money, you could probably just transparent dome it off.
Yes.
Like, make it look like the Amazon headquarters and just have the tea room as being the centerpiece.
Yes. One day, Geoff. How would you like this design? Like the Amazon headquarters?
Like the Amazon headquarters, but not the Amazon headquarters in the center.
Right. Right. Oh, that's awesome. So in terms of traveling, have you mainly stayed on the West Coast in terms of tea, or have you, because you've never been, you said you haven't been in New York. Have you been to Chicago?
I have not. The furthest east I've been is Pennsylvania.
It's pretty far east.
Hold on. Which one is nearer, Washington, D.C. or Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania is closer.
Pennsylvania is closer. Okay, furthest
Yes.
I've been then is Washington, D.C. Furthest east.
Okay.
That was way before any of my tea appreciation kicked in.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
So mainly it's on the West Coast then, which is a great hub for tea, actually.
It is a great hub for tea, but most of the interesting stuff happens in New York, Florida, and there's a really cool there's a really cool tea shop in Arkansas, of all places.
That is very random.
I think they're based in Arkansas. It's called Shang Tea, and
Okay.
they own their own garden in Fujian Province, China.
Oh, and then they built the garden in Arkansas.
No, well, they don't have a garden. They have a mall outlet shop where they sell their wares. Yeah, they do an oolong. They do several white teas. Yeah, they do an oolong from white tea cultivars, which are so good. Everything that they do is just really good, and I wish I had some place that was like that here. But the closest thing that I have to that would be probably the U.S. garden located outside of Salem, Minto Island Growers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything in Chicago at all. It's almost all on the West Coast, isn't it? I don't think there's
tea shops or tea shops or
no, not tea shops. Just anyone growing any sort of tea. I don't think it could even survive in Chicago.
Closest garden to you would be Light of Day Organics, which is located in Michigan.
Okay.
And that one, the garden is mostly in hoop houses because of the inclement weather.
Right.
And they mostly do biodynamic farming there, but they do a really nice white tea too.
I'll have to check it out. That's not too far, just across the pond. That's not the correct saying for Lake Michigan.
No, it's just across the ponds.
The pond that is a lake.
The pond that is a lake.
I just need to get to the glove. The glove of the Midwest. It is the glove.
And oh man, yeah, my oolong is all spent.
It is. Well, this was fun chatting with you. And are you all done with yours?
Huh?
You're all done with your red oolong?
Yeah, it's done and gone. The spent leaves look lovely though too. Like so. So
the picture that you took on your it was a Note 5. Was it a Note 5?
Yes.
Looked really nice.
But the video stopped after an hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that last 10 minutes of talking that we got in didn't catch.
Oh, okay. That's okay. So Geoff, if people want to get a hold of you or want to continue talking to you about tea, or potentially traveling to India with you for an interesting trip, how can they get a hold of you?
I am the Lazy Literatus on Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook. I think that runs the gamut of where I am. That's a name that just kind of stuck, and that's what I use as my handle for just about everything.
Nice. That makes it fairly easy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And if our listeners want to chat with myself or Geoff on what we talked about, you can reach us at the T-Fix. That was a little catch there. At the T-Fix on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook as well. So, all right, Geoff, thanks. This was really fun.
Likewise.
Okay, take care.
Had a blast. You too.
Yeah, same. Okay, bye.